Hello, everyone. Welcome to this virtual Speakerhead webinar. It's co-presented to you by Speakerhead and Partners in Research Canada, and we are happy to have more than 5,000 students joining us from across Canada and the UK, and they're joining from more than 130 different locations today. My name is Stacey Joyce, and I'll be your host today, and I look forward to those questions. Our guest today is Dominic Wilcox, who joins us from the Cisco Systems offices in Calgary, and he is an artist, designer, and inventor. Graduated in 2002 from the Royal College of Art in London, England, exhibits his work all over the world, has been commissioned by organizations from BMW Mini to Kellogg's, and has worked with children to make their invention ideas a reality as part of the Inventors Project. Dominic has been featured in an award-winning documentary on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert, and now he's with us today as part of Speakerhead. Thank you for joining us.
I'm very happy to be here. This is my first time in Canada, and everybody is so friendly.
We get that a lot, actually.
Oh, do you? Amazing. I can't believe it.
So welcome.
Well, thank you, thank you. Should I just start then?
Yes, please do. You can go ahead and share your slides there.
Okay. Well, hello, everybody. I'm just going to work out how this works, but here we go. I don't know whether you can see this, but
Perfect.
This is me in my studio in London. This is in a forest. And I have to think of invention ideas. So I spend all of my days trying to think of ideas that are surprising or make people think or are very unusual. And when I find really good ideas, I sometimes draw them or I make them into real things. So this is me in my studio, sitting up a tree, trying to think of ideas in my sketchbook. And I've got a place for my cup of tea, like this, and a pot of pens and pencils, and I sit up there and I think of ideas, because I think sometimes it's good to have a bit of peace and quiet so you can concentrate, and I like sitting up there. It's very, very pleasant. This is me when I was a little boy. That was my first computer. That was a hat that I really loved. And I think I was okay at school. I wasn't super creative. I think I was just pretty normal, average little boy. I liked painting. I liked drawing, but I was okay. I wasn't the best in the class. And when I was older, I think I was about 16 when I painted this. This was the best I could do. The teacher would ask us to bring in things from home and paint them. But I didn't know much about invention or ideas or being creative by thinking and using your imagination. I didn't know that. It wasn't till a year later when a teacher asked me, he showed me a book of sort of funny and unusual inventions. And he challenged us, he challenged the class to try and think of our own unusual inventions. And I found that I could do it. I drew some, and I found that I really enjoyed doing it. And I've been doing it ever since. So ever since I was a young boy, I've been trying to think of ideas. Now I put this in. This is Leonard Cohen. I know Leonard Cohen is Canadian. He's one of my heroes. I always loved Leonard Cohen. He's a singer and a poet and a writer. And he said, if I knew where songs came from, I'd go there more often. So what he was talking about ideas. If he knew where ideas were, he would try to go there more often. But of course, there is no real place where ideas are. But I think ideas are really everywhere. They're in everything that's around us. Every object, whether it's a cup or a bottle or this computer, there are ideas waiting to be found. We've just got to think hard and we'll find the ideas. For example, so I look around the world, so brushing your teeth, that's not a very nice picture, but someone brushing their teeth, give me an idea for this. Oh no, wait a minute. not the wrong one. I'm going to show you, I'm going to swap back. Stop. And you can see me. This gave me an idea for a toothbrush maraca. I don't know whether you can see that. But so I combined two things. Sometimes you can get good ideas by joining two different things together. So I thought about toothbrush, and of course you shake it. And then I thought, what else can you shake? So to make brushing your teeth a bit more enjoyable and to make music, I joined it on with the maraca together. So you can. So I did that very easy. Now back to the sharing of my work. Here's another one. This is a ladder escalator. So there's a little motor in the bottom of the ladder, and the person can go up and down. I don't know why people haven't done this before. Makes life much more easier. This is a hairdryer. This is, I don't need it, but you might, probably. This is a more fun way to dry your hair, which I thought was quite funny. So I draw these drawings and then I animate them because it's actually easy to do quite simple animation. This is a family poncho. So this is if you're outside, maybe watching a sport or sitting in the park and it's raining and you're with your family, you could use a whole family poncho so you could pass your sandwiches between each other, no problem, keeping dry. I just look at things. When I'm walking down the street, I'll find ideas everywhere. So looking at a fence, we all know a fence. So I thought about this idea. This is a cost-saving 5-plank fence. The sensor detects, there's a sensor on the fence and it detects where the person is and the fence moves like this. Some people say, oh, but Dominic, what if there are 2 people walking by? Well, actually, if you buy 5 sensors for each plank of wood, it can split and it can take up to 5 people. This, when I say that ideas are everywhere, so this is a chair with a camera bag on the back. But actually, it's a sheep. I don't know whether you've seen that. Give yourself a pat on the back if you saw the sheep, because you have an ability to see ideas where they don't, where you don't, or where other people don't notice them. So ideas are everywhere. We've got to look closer. This was an idea I made when I went to my first university when I was about 20, and it is a bed. And I think my idea was that when you're asleep, you don't really need the rest of the mattress. So I made this bed. This is another idea, to make use of the person in front of you when you're in a line. In England, we say queue, but I don't know whether you say queue here. Oh, you do, queue, when you're in a queue. To make use of the person in front, so a little shelf that straps on the shoulders and you can put some snacks and drinks on. This was an idea for a shoe, and I decided to, I scanned in my fingerprint and I blew it up, and then I cut out the shape of my fingerprint and I poured some rubber in, and I made this fingerprint sole of the shoe. So when it's wet, when it's raining, you can leave your mark all around the city, your special mark. Sometimes I get ideas, yeah, just by looking at everyday things. So I thought about when you use a paintbrush and you leave it in the paint overnight, you forget about it, you didn't clean it. Now I do this sometimes, it's a bad habit. But sometimes I'll come down and the brush is dry and it's hard. But this gave me an idea. What if I got some brushes, some paint brushes, and I dipped them in a glue and they went hard? Maybe I could shape the bristles of the brush. And so this turned into an idea for coat hooks. So I bent the bristles and kept them in position until they went hard, and now I've made some coat hooks. So I like to use everyday things that are around us, really easy. You'll have some brushes in your house, probably. Ask your parents. So this one, I don't know whether you all recognize this. This is the Wizard of Oz. And that is Dorothy, the little girl there, and the Tin Man, the Scarecrow, and the Lion. And Dorothy has some ruby red slippers. Don't know whether you remember that. And can you think what's magic about those ruby red slippers? Well, when she clicks her heels together, she gets taken back to Kansas. So this gave me an idea. I thought, with modern technology, could I make some shoes that do something like that? And so I invented the world's first pair of GPS shoes. They were called No Place Like Home GPS shoes. So what you do is you plot on a map, I'll show you the map a bit later, plot on a map where you want to go in the world. And then you press the button, upload to shoe. So the shoes know where you want to go. There's some technology inside the shoes. There's a bit of GPS, like your sat-nav in the car. And the left shoe has a little circle of lights which point in the direction of the destination you want to go. And the right shoe has a progress bar that grows as you get closer to the destination. So, and I did a little drawing on the underside of the shoes of a little person walking through a city. So this was experimenting with electricity, because mixing electricity and electronics with flexible materials like shoes and fabric is quite difficult. So these were some experiments. These are some these are some LED lights that you can sew into fabric. You can get fabric thread that conducts electricity now. So you can make soft. This was, again, experimenting. So I worked with a traditional shoemaker who is very traditional in making men's brogue shoes, and also with technology experts to work out how to combine the two. That was the map. That's where you plot the map. Press upload. Oh, wait a minute. See if this works. I'm not sure if it works. Video doesn't work, but anyway. Next one. I was in Durham Cathedral. So in the northeast of England. I'm from England. I live in London, but I'm from Sunderland, which is in the northeast of England. And I was in the cathedral, and they had this beautiful stained glass windows on the wall, on the windows. And I thought, wow, they're amazing to look at. They're really beautiful. But why don't we have them in modern design? We don't see it so much. It's mostly an old thing that people made hundreds of years ago. But you can do it. There are some places that still do stained glass making. And I thought, when I was in the cathedral, would it be interesting to do something with stained glass that is new and is maybe in 3 dimensions? So instead of flat, in 3 dimensions. So I got challenged by the car company Mini and Design, which is a design website, to create my vision for the future of mobility. So the future of moving around. And I knew that driverless cars were going to be the future. These cars where they drive themselves, they're controlled by a computer, you don't have to do anything, you can just sit there. And I thought, okay, I'll do something about driverless cars of the future. So I'm saying that in the year 2059, which was 100 years after the original little tiny mini car that your parents might know about, in 2059, it'll be safer to ride in a driverless car than in a human-driven car. It'll be safer. So I decided I was going to make a stained glass, driverless, sleeper car of the future. So you would go in the car, lie down, tell the car where you want to go, and the car will take you there, and you'll be covered in beautiful glass. And there were no, because driverless cars will be really safe, there'll be no collisions, there'll be no crashes, so you can make your car out of anything. So I did these drawings, these were my drawings. And I worked with a local university. So this was on a design course at university, and they helped me make this wooden frame which the glass would sit on. And there were some of my drawings at the bottom of sleeping in the stained glass driverless sleeper car of the future. And then I took that frame to a stained glass workshop, and I took a 5-day workshop in how to make stained glass cars. So that is me thinking about how I'm going to cut the glass to fit it onto this wooden frame. So I did some templates, and then I started to cover the car in glass, and I did triangles, and there were 8 different colors, and I used a sort of, it's called a water glass, so it's got like a ripple, and I choose 8 different colors, and I would say it took about a month to cover the frame in glass, and it took a month to make the frame, and it took about a month to think of all of the designs and how it's going to work and how it's going to look. So that's me in the car waiting to be transported away. So this is it's like an idea, but it's a real object. It's a full-size car. It's about the size of a single bed. And that was me sleeping in the car, getting ready to be taken around the city. And I made a ZZZ number plate. Do you know why I made a ZZZ number plate? It's because ZZZ means sleeping in comic books or cartoons. So that was the stained glass car. Oh, wait a minute, see if this works. That doesn't work. Strange, I can hear it, but the videos don't work. That's okay. You can go on my website, DominicWilcox.com, and you can see all of these things. You can see the videos and everything. We'll talk about that at the end. That's me at the end of the day going home to sleep. Even more. Sleeping in the car. And then the Durham Cathedral, the big church that I showed you at the beginning, they saw all of the press and publicity. It was in the newspapers, on websites. And they contacted me and asked me, would I like to show the car in their cathedral? So I showed it in the Durham Cathedral. So it was an idea that I had just looking at the glass, and then I went back and showed the car again. This is an idea for snoring. I don't know if your parents snore, or you snore, or your teacher snores. But this is my solution. So this is like a headphones with a microphone underneath your nose. So when you make a noise, it wakes you up. So it goes into your ears and wakes you up. So that's my snoring solution. This is a cereal serving head crane device. So I got asked by Kellogg's, who are a cereal company, and they asked me to think of inventions that would make breakfast more fun and interesting for children. So this is one of my ideas. I thought about this, you know, the claw game you see in amusement arcades, and yeah, I think you might know it. You grab something. Well, I drew that idea, and then I drew this idea. I thought I'll make it a bit more fun. So sometimes you can think of a first idea which can help you come up with a second idea which might be more interesting. I think it's always good just to start drawing something, and that helps you think. I think when you draw things, it helps your brain start to work. So then I started to make a prototype out of cardboard. And you can actually make these things yourself, but you can make simple versions. So this is using hydraulics. So if you've got 2 syringes and a tube, one's got liquid in, you can push this syringe in, and the liquid fills the other syringe, and that pushes that out, and you can start to control the crane. But I put it on my head. And I then made the deluxe super posh version. So you move those handles up and down, and they push milk into syringes to move the crane. And so it was a server, so you could get your cereal out of the box and serve it into your bowl. And then at the end, you could press the white plunger and it squirts the milk into the bowl. If you go on my website, you can see videos of that. I was on the Late Show with Stephen Colbert doing that. He did it. He was very, very good. He picked it up really easily. Yeah, there's some animations on my website you can see. Before I get onto this one, I just want to show you this idea. How long have we done? How long have we done, you know?
We're still okay for time, but do you want to turn off your slide sharing there and we'll see your picture nice and large so we can see that invention.
So this is a reverse listening device. I just made this especially. I've done one. You might have seen it. I don't know, but I've made a new one. It's quite easy to do. So I got that from a plumbing shop. I bought that from a kitchen, just a hardware shop, some funnels. And then I drilled holes in these and joined it together. So this you put over your ears, and this is a reverse listening device. So sounds that come from over there go in this tube, through the tube, and into this ear. And sounds that come from over there go in this tube and over to that ear. So it swaps it around. It's quite strange. But I just thought, I wonder what it's like to hear sounds in your opposite ears. And so I made this. And it's quite interesting. It gets confusing when you're walking down the street, but, you know. And here's another one. Sometimes when it's a cup of tea, so when my tea's too hot, it burns my tongue, which I don't like. So I made this. I added a fan. I don't know if you can see that, but there's a fan with a little switch on there. So when I've got my hot tea, I press the switch. A minute, move that up a bit. And then that works there. So that cools the tea. So that is another example, a bit like the toothbrush maraca, of joining two things together, the cup and the fan. And then I'm nearly finished, but wait a minute, press chat. Press chat. Oh, share screen. Back to the share screen. I just want to show you the project that I'm doing now is, because I come up with all of these ideas, I asked a couple of children to come up with their own invention ideas, a bit like my teacher asked me. And the children drew some amazing ideas. I thought they were brilliant. They were really surprising and clever. And I thought, wow, children have got amazing imaginations, I think better than adults. So I'm going to do a project to ask children to come up with lots of invention ideas. And then I'm going to get local makers and manufacturers to make the best ones into real things. So it's going to be called Little Inventors. And we did it. I did it in my hometown in Sunderland. So this was me going around primary schools in Sunderland, in the northeast of England, asking children to draw ideas. So I got them to draw. This guy on the left of the screen said he likes eating sweets. What do you call them here? Sweets? Sweet. Candy. Likes eating candy, but he doesn't want his teeth to rot, so he made some teeth protectors to stop the candy rotting his teeth. These were the makers. So we got 600 invention ideas, and then the makers selected the ones they wanted to make. Those were the children who got selected, and they talked to the makers to explain their idea. This was one of the ideas. This is a super fast tennis ball by Kai, age 10. So you can adjust the dial and change the speed of the tennis ball so you could play slow or fast, which I thought was brilliant. So we made one, but the animations don't work on this computer, but that's okay. So you can turn the dial. If you go on the website, you'll see that, inventorsproject.co.uk. This was a little boy wanted to do a high five, but when he's on his own, he's got no one to do a high five with. So we made a high five machine so he could press a button and do a high five. This was a little boy who did like a fries maker. You put a potato in a sort of like gun. It shoots the gun through a chicken wire, which cuts it into chips. straight into a deep fat fryer. So it's an instant fry maker. And we made a 3D model of that, of how it would look. This was a little girl who did a family scooter drawing. And we made that family scooter. And then we had a big exhibition and showed it all in a big exhibition. So now we're just launching littleinventors.org to ask you, to ask all of the children in the world to start coming up with ideas, upload them to the website, and then we might start to look at thinking of making the very best ones. We're going to do lots of events. We've come to Canada with NSERC. We're going to, and Speakerhead, and we're going to have an exhibition next year. So thank you for listening. I will. What do I do? Stop sharing.
Stop sharing at the top. Perfect. Well, thank you so much for showing us so many of your inventions and drawings. I've been furiously looking off to the side here at all the questions that are coming in and trying to make sure I'm not missing any. We've had a large number of questions already before we even start the question period. So I'm trying to decide which one to ask you first, and I think the one that has come up from many different places, including McGillivray Public School in Ontario, they want to know, what is your favorite creation or invention and why? Must be like choosing one of your children.
I do like the shoes. I like the GPS shoes. Think they're clever. I made a garbage bin. Do you call them garbage bins?
Yes.
Oh, garbage can. Made a garbage can, but it was an automatic playing xylophone garbage can. So it was a kitchen one where you push the lever at the bottom and the lid opens, but then it released a little metal ball that traveled around steps that were xylophone wooden steps. So it played a tune as the ball hit each step. And I quite like that one.
Oh, good. And what do you do with all of your inventions? Do you sell them or give them away?
Well, I'm very much about just being creative and doing the best ideas I can, drawing them or making them, photographing them, videoing them, maybe showing them on the internet, on websites, on video, and then I will also show them in exhibitions. So to be an inventor, you don't have to do things that need to sell in millions of, and you can be creative just by doing interesting things and showing people and sharing your ideas. And that's all I've done. I just exhibit and show my ideas to the world.
Very nice. Now I have an image of a question to show you. One of our classes did a brainstorming session yesterday and sent in their pictures of their questions. So how might you make a toothbrush hairbrush, maybe similar to your toothbrush maraca?
How might you make it? Well, you buy a toothbrush, you buy a brush, and I would cut off the handle, and then I would try to make the connection between, you see what I did there? So this toothbrush was narrow and this was quite thick. So I used some clay. You can get like air drying clay that you can join and smooth it out. And then I masked it off and sprayed it white. And so it looks like it is one piece. So, but I think you just do it, just try it. Yeah, it's good to just learn by making and using your hands, and you work it out. I'm not an expert in anything in particular, but I know quite a lot about lots of different things, and I work it out how to do it. So I'd never made one of these before, but I just worked it out by trying something.
Okay, great. Every time I think I'm about to read a question here, it moves up on my screen because everyone's asking so many. From Ms. McKishney's class, how do you deal with people saying that you can't do or create your ideas?
Well, I think now is the time when anything is possible, because technology is moving so quickly. Each 10 minutes there is a new way of doing something. So I think anything is possible. So I would stop, don't worry about possibilities or what you think is impossible. They just stop your imagination. So forget about that and just think of whatever ideas you want. Let your imagination run free, because when adults tend to, they tend to get a bit restricted and they start to think of problems and difficulties. And that is why children think of better ideas than adults, I think.
Right. Okay. So where am I going to go next with these? Copperfield School students want to know where they can buy the GPS shoes.
There is only one of those pair of shoes in the whole world. So how much would that be? That would be $1 million. So start saving. Start saving.
Yes. Yes, it will take a while. Ms. Bamford's class wants to know how long it took you from plan to finish to build that stained glass sleeper car.
Well, I think it took about 3 months. It took about 3 months to, from nothing, from just a question about create your idea for the future of movement, of mobility. To go from that to the end, where it was all finished, was about 3 months. It was about 1 month thinking of how it's going to work and the ideas, 1 month making the frame, the wheels and the frame, and then 1 month doing the glass and learning how to do stained glass making. Yeah.
And do you have any idea how many panes of glass are in the car, or how many panes of glass were broken in the process?
Yeah, I think there's about 450 little bits of glass, because they get smaller and smaller as they get to the front. So it was very difficult. And I broke about 100 because you score it, you scrape the glass in a line and then you snap it. And sometimes when you snap it, it goes off at an angle and it breaks it and spoils it. So it's quite difficult. As you get better at not breaking the glass. But I was just beginning.
Right. How old were you when you had that inspiration in school and you started to really create new things?
Well, it was just at the end of school, and it was the beginning when I first left school to go to university. So I was about 18. So before that, I was just normal, you know, just I liked painting and I liked drawing, you know, but I didn't think I had many ideas, but I think I probably did, but just no one asked me to show my ideas. So they were all in my head. And then someone asked me to draw some ideas, and I found I liked it and I could do it. And I've been doing it ever since. So and you
can. It's never too late, right?
Not too late or too early. It's not too early. You should start early. Don't wait till you're 18.
So my next question comes from Ms. Zorzetto's grade 2-3 class in Hamilton, Ontario. And Mohammed wants to know, why do you have a bird listener?
About the bird listener in the documentary.
Yes.
Yes. Yes, there's a documentary about me called The Reinvention of Normal. The Reinvention of Normal. And in there, they asked me to come up with an idea really quickly so they could film me doing it, thinking of it, doing it in 1 day. And I had 1 day to think of it. And I thought, people watch birds, but not many people listen to birds. So I thought it would be funny and interesting to try and make a bird listener. So I got a bowl with some seed and a long pole with a tube, a bit like the hat, with a tube coming down that I could lift the pole up and hopefully attract a bird to eat some seed and make some noise while I could listen to it downstairs. It was quite difficult to get a bird to, but I needed to just spend more time out there.
Ms. Obreza's class wants to know where you get funding for your projects. If you don't sell them, how do you make a living?
Well, when I started, the internet is free. You can do a website for free. paper and pens are very cheap. Buying a toothbrush and a maraca was very cheap. That costs hardly anything. So you can be creative. You don't need lots of money. You just need it. Your imagination is free. So that's the way I started. I just thought the internet was really good for me because it gave me a way to share my ideas with people. Instead of protecting, some people before the internet used to protect their ideas and not want to show them. But now we show ideas and we share ideas, and other people see them, and the ideas grow and they become more interesting. So the internet, I just kept on showing my ideas, and then more and more people noticed it. And then people started to say, Dominic, like Minnie would say, Dominic, can we challenge you to come up with a future of transport? And we'll pay you some money to do that and to make it. And whatever you don't spend on the making, you can keep. So that's sort of how it goes. Oh, I do sell some drawings, and I sell books. I've got a book, Variations on Normal, and it's lots of different little things that add up into something.
I just have more of a comment than a question here from a grade 2 student at Auburn Bay School. Maybe an idea that they came up with, inspired by your GPS shoes. This student suggested that you should make GPS glasses so you can see where you're going, so you don't have to look at your feet. So just an idea for you.
Okay, the next step.
Oh, do you have siblings, and do they invent like you?
Yeah, I've got a sister, and no, she doesn't. But she has 2 children, Holly and Maya, and I am trying to get them to become inventors. Holly was age 5, and she came up with a squirrel that sits in a tree with a camera that looks for people who drop litter and reports them to the police. So that was Holly's idea. A little secret squirrel looking at litter bugs.
Yes, going to change the world.
Yes.
The Copperfield grade 4s in Calgary want to know how many drafts, designs, or iterations do you make before you actually make your prototype of a particular invention?
I think it's always best to try and do the final one straight away, and then make it even better, and then make it even better. But I would say I make one quick model out of cardboard or paper or tubes that I can see it, because it's quite difficult just to imagine it in your head. First draw it and get the design right, think about how it's going to look, and then make a quick model out of cardboard and such like, and glue and sticky tape, so you can see it in 3 dimensions. You could try it, you could use it, and then once you've got that right, you can then make an even better version. So it's like a step: thinking, drawing, making model, making a better model.
So there must be a lot of measuring and experimenting involved in creating what you finally settle on as the finished invention, the finished product. Do you have any examples of how you might use math and science along the way? Because you're an artist and designer, but there's lots of technology in a lot of your inventions. You must have to either learn about them along the way or use knowledge you already learned. What does that look like?
Yeah, I think every project, because every idea is new, so I'm having to learn new things every time. How do I make this? What do I do? So I'm starting from the beginning pretty much every time, but with experience and the knowledge that I've learnt about mathematics and physics or chemistry and geography. And I think learning knowledge, information, things you learn at school, are like adding ingredients into your brain, which allows you to have a wider range of ideas, more different types of ideas. And sometimes if you have a bit of maths knowledge and a bit of physics knowledge, and you know a bit of geography, you can combine them in new and surprising ways. You know, the xylophone bin, that was mathematics, because I had to create a spiral of wood that went in a perfect spiral around a bin. If you go on my website, dominicwilcox.com, you'll see that bin. And that was that the shapes of the xylophone were sort of like triangles. And those triangles had to be the right angles so that they would go perfectly around a set circle. So that was an example. But I think there's this thing in the shoes. The shoes have got, you know, you had to learn a bit of electronics to do that. Yeah, there's mathematics in everything, I think. Yeah.
It seems like you really take a lot of different areas and kind of smash them together when you're inventing. So, yeah. What do you like most about your job?
What do I like most? Every new project is different, so it's all surprising. I like to do new things. I don't like to repeat the same thing. You know, I did the world's first art exhibition for dogs recently. That was my last project. So I made an art exhibition for dogs, not about dogs, but for dogs, so they could visit, which was quite unusual. So I became an expert in dogs. And dogs, I learned about dogs, that dogs can only see blue and yellow. So you didn't know that. But I found out that because I had to do an art exhibition for dogs. So each project is new and surprising, and I'm always learning new information.
Interesting. So did you make the art pieces for that primarily in blue and yellow coloring?
Yeah, I asked some artists. I made some sculptures, some interactive sculptures. I made a giant dog bowl. It was about 12 feet, 3 yards wide, giant dog bowl with ball pit balls. You know, the multicolored ball pit balls that you can play in. But I got some brown ones made, so it looked like dog food. So the dogs could jump in that. And I asked 6 artists to do some paintings that dogs would appreciate the subject of. So smelly things and running around in the park. And I asked the artists to paint those paintings in blues and yellows so the dogs could see it. And I also scented each painting depending on the subject so the dogs could sniff the paintings. So yeah.
And how did the dogs react when you had this exhibition?
The dogs loved it. I didn't know what the dogs would do, but the dogs were, well, it's difficult to judge because in a normal art exhibition, you might read an art critic's review or, you know, people will tell you what they think of your art. But with an exhibition for dogs, the only way to judge a dog is through how many wags of its tail it does. And there were many wags of tails in the exhibition, I can assure you.
Were there any dogs that jumped right into the giant bowl of dog food?
At first, some of the dogs were unsure what it was. But then once they saw that it was a fun thing, they were jumping in and out of the dogs and of the bowl. And yeah, I also made a dog. You know when dogs stick their head through a window of a car? Now, I learned that the reason why dogs poke their heads through a moving car window is because not just that they like to look out in the wind, but that they're smelling all of the scents in the world. So hundreds of smells are coming into their nose, and that's why dogs stick their head out. So I made a giant car with windows, with a dog baskets, so dogs could sit with a head through the window, and I customized a giant fan with shelving in front of the fan with various smelly items like meat and fish and an old sock and an old shoe. So the scents were being blown by the side of the windows and the dogs would stick their head out. And I had a moving mechanical landscape that I took a photograph which would simulate movement. So that was quite fun.
You're making me want to be a dog right now. So I have a couple classes that are on the same wavelength here. Mr. Sletcha's class and Ms. Craig's class at CJFS in Calgary. And they both want to know sort of what are your thoughts on failing in the process of inventing and designing, or have you had any ideas that just didn't pan out? Have you ever given up on something? And what do you do if you sort of hit a creative block?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes that can happen, but it happens to everybody, but you've just got to not worry. You have to create a feeling of confidence, of support to help each other, and believing in yourself. I really believe that everybody can think of great ideas. If you start to doubt it, then it's more difficult to be creative. So you have to be positive. I think to start with an idea, even if you think it's a bad idea, there are no bad ideas. Just start drawing something, and that helps you think. So the one way to get over creative block is to just do something, make something, use your hands, just start. Even if you think it's not the best idea yet, just by drawing something, it helps you start to think, oh, I could add to it, I could change it. It's like moving a big, heavy boulder. Once you get it going, it just starts to go. So just start. Don't be frightened. Don't worry about failure. There's no such thing. I normally now start something where the idea is okay, but I know that by doing it and starting it, it will get better and better as I do it. So you don't have to come up with brilliant ideas straight away. You can just come up with easy, simple ideas and just start. Yeah.
Great. So Ms. Craig's class, along with their discussions of what it means to fail, they're also talking about the idea of success. And they would like to know, what is success in your eyes?
Success, I think it's just thinking of surprising things that people might not have noticed. Some ideas that could be useful to people, could make people's lives a bit more enjoyable or happy or easier, or just make people laugh. I think humor and being funny is creativity. If you're funny, you're creative. And so I just like success to me is just finding ideas that make me smile, and that's success. Yeah.
Very simple. So going back a bit to near the beginning, what was your first invention and why did you make it? Perhaps the first thing that wasn't just a drawing, the first thing that you made a three-dimensional model of.
I made, which one? I made a calendar. It was a calendar. It was I called it a one a day cod liver oil calendar. Do you have cod liver oil tablets here? They're sort of like energy, like vitamin tablets. And it was a calendar that you popped out one vitamin cod liver oil tablet, which is just good for you, every day. It was a bit like a Christmas advent calendar sort of thing, but there was 360 cod liver oil tablets in a big long calendar. I made that, and that was very healthy, and it reminded me what day it was. So,
and how old were you?
Oh, I thought it was about 19. So I didn't start making stuff until, my teacher showed me, but it wasn't till late for me. While you're probably getting a head start, I'm telling you, and your teachers are telling you, you can start being inventors now. You don't have to wait until you're an adult.
Very nice. So one question we haven't talked about, we've talked a lot about where do you get ideas for the inventions that you're creating. How do you find ideas for materials to use? Maybe the next step, once you have an idea, what comes next?
Well, sometimes you can get ideas from materials. I think you can get ideas either just thinking with a sketchbook, like I sometimes do, just thinking about the world, or you can start make models, and it gives you ideas. Oh, I could add this onto that, and I could add this onto that, and it would be better if it was bigger or smaller or softer or harder. So using your hands and thinking through making is one thing. And then also, I have come up with some ideas experimenting with materials. So actually thinking, what could I do that I haven't seen done before with this material? So, and you could take cardboard and you could cut it into lots of thin strips, and then you could maybe weave it together in a pattern, or you could, I got some toy soldiers and I melted them, and then they fused together into a solid object. But I don't recommend you try that unless you're with a parent. Yeah, so you can experiment with materials, bend it, shape it, cut it, shape it, glue it, you know, and sometimes you'll find surprises doing that way that you can't think of if you're in a sketchbook trying to, or you're, you know, on a computer. It's very difficult to be creative thinking on a computer. So I think use your hands, draw, and just observe the world. I think it's like having a third eye. It's like having a third creative eye. So when I was in the church and I saw the glass windows, that's the reason I was looking for ideas. And I thought of an idea because I had my creative eye switched on. So you've always got to be on the lookout. It's not about a thing when you come to school and be creative. You've got to be thinking of ideas all the time. Then it's easier.
Even in your sleep? Do you sleep?
I haven't been sleeping recently, but that's jet lag. Yeah, but sometimes, you know, when you wake up, you've solved the problem. It's amazing. So I think if you think about the problem, then sleep on it, you sometimes can find the idea the next day. So sometimes I'll research the subject, I'll think about it a lot, I'll write down all the words associated with the challenge, with the idea that I'm trying to think, and then I leave it and I do something else. And then I come back to it, and suddenly the ideas start to flow because all of that information has settled down in my brain and it comes out. So sleeping on an idea is good, or going for a walk helps you think, I think. That's another way. Movement, I think I can think of ideas when I'm moving. Or just talking about your ideas. Talk to people, talk to your classmates, talk to your friends, talk to your parents, talk to your carers, talk to your family about your ideas, and you get feedback and it starts to help you think. So I think talking is a good way of helping you get over any creative block or finding ideas.
Well, that's very interesting because we are just about out of time, and I had one more question that came in from our viewers, and they wanted to know, as you've been busy talking about your previous inventions during this webinar, have you come up with any new ideas that you're thinking you might go sketch or something like that? Not to put you on the spot, but you know.
Oh my goodness. Sometimes I do switch off the third eye just for a rest, because I would go crazy if it really was all the time. But yes, I've got to think of 30 ideas by the end of this month. You know, I've got to think of them. I can't tell you what they are, because if you follow me, you'll see. I'll show them. But it's to do with the weather. Think of ideas about the weather. That's a challenge. Come up with them. Then upload them to littleinventors.org, and I can see them, and then we'll see. But yeah, I've got to think of ideas, 30 ideas about the weather by the end of the month. So that's my challenge that I'm finding difficult.
So that's what's next then. Well, maybe our Canadian little inventors can upload something that will spark an idea for you. But in the meantime, we have to wrap up for today. I need to give another thank you to those who made this webinar possible, including Speakerhead, Partners in Research Canada, Devon, NSERC, Repsol, and Cisco Systems in Calgary, who has housed our guests today and made this connection possible. And thank you to everyone who joined us today. I am so sorry we couldn't get to all of your questions. There were so many. I hope we did answer at least something that everyone was wondering about. And of course, thank you, Dominic, for answering our questions, sharing your ideas, and encouraging our young inventors to just go for it.
Great. Oh, it's been a pleasure. I hope you enjoyed it.
Well, I did anyway. I'm the only one who has a voice right now, but I enjoyed it. We have been getting lots and lots of thank yous on that chat, lots of positive thoughts and thank yous coming in there as well. So for more Speakerhead events this week, check out what's happening in Calgary now through September 18th. For more webinars like this one, you can check out the PIR live event schedule at pirweb.org. And if you want to give some invention a try, check out littleinventors.org to learn more and upload your designs. Some of the best ideas will be turned into animations or maybe even made into real objects by their magnificent makers. So thanks again, Dominic. Thank you to everyone who joined in, and have a great day. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye-bye.